Coming from Autocad, you are no doubt familiar with the explode command. Explode is used frequently in Autocad to accomplish various goals. When you import a CAD file into Revit, there is an option to explode the file. Its results are similar to exploding a block in Autocad. In general, this tool is typically avoided by most Revit users. In this movie, we'll discuss the tool and why it's typically avoided and under what rare circumstances it would be considered acceptable. So I'm in a file here called Explode. I'm looking at a floor plan that's been linked in, and the first thing you want to know about Explode is that when you have a linked file, you cannot explode it. So when I select this, notice that the Explode option is grayed out. That right there is one of the reasons why a lot of CAD and BIM managers will actually recommend using Link CAD exclusively, because it eliminates the temptation to explode by simply not having it be available. But let's press on and scroll down here on the project browser and locate under drafting views this detail view. Here I have an imported CAD file, and because it's an import, it can be exploded. So you'll notice here that that button is available, but before I click on it, I want to show you a couple things so that we understand a little bit about why we want to typically avoid this. One of the main reasons we want to avoid exploding CAD files is it tends to junk up your Revit project with lots of extraneous types and items that are not needed by the file. This will serve to cause confusion to the users coming after you in the file. It will tend to balloon the size of the file, and in some cases can even introduce corruption. So for all of those reasons, we typically try and avoid this command wherever possible. But let me show you some of the items that I'm talking about. If I go to the Manage tab and we look under Additional Settings, we've got lots of things that can be configured here. Among those are things like the line styles. If I look at line styles and I expand this, I've got the default list of line styles here. These are the ones that are created by Revit when you first create the file. The ones with the little brackets are built in. Those are always there. And then the ones down here can actually be customized, but you can see it's a pretty limited list. We've got hidden lines, medium lines, wide lines. Let's cancel out of there. Let's look at another example. If I go to the Annotate tab, here on the dialog launcher for text are the text types. Now this list is even more compact than the line styles list. There's only 2 text types currently in the file. We've got 1/4 inch Arial and 3/32 inch Arial. So let me cancel that. Now you may be able to figure out where I'm going with this. When I select this file and I click the Explode button, what that does is what you might expect. It breaks the CAD file up into pieces. Now, the pieces that it breaks it up into are really just simple lines. You can see here that when I click on these are nothing more than lines here, because even when you explode it, Revit doesn't have the ability to somehow magically convert this into proper model object categories. So it just comes up with line objects that match what the drawing looked like. And as you can see over here under line style, this is the same list that we looked at a moment ago on the Manage tab. There's all the built-in styles there, but notice all these new line styles that got added to the file that all start with the prefix A. Those came from the layers in the CAD file. So every layer in the CAD file got converted to a line style, which again, you may or may not want. The same has happened to the text. Notice when I select a piece of text here, and if I open up the drop down here, here's the 2 types that we had to start with, but now we've got all these other ones that have the name Autocad in front of them. So you're going to get lots of additional types and styles and items that load up the file and again can increase file size and potentially inhibit performance. Notice here that some parts of this detail are still selected as an import symbol. Well, just like in AutoCAD, you can nest one block inside of another. When you explode an import in Revit, it looks at that structure the same way. So if there are nested elements inside the block, either other blocks or hatch patterns and so on, then those become new import symbols that would have to be exploded. Now, if you want to just explode the entire thing in one shot, you can use the drop down here and do a full explode. That will explode all levels deep. It won't just stop at the top level. If I explode this guy, here's another downside to exploding something like a hatch. It's not going to stay a hatch. Revit's going to turn that into a bunch of independent lines and potentially add even more line styles to the file. For all of those reasons, I hope you can see that exploding is not necessarily ideal. And if I go back to the floor plan here, even if this were an import and you exploded it, all you're going to get is lines here. All of these walls won't get converted to walls. They're going to be two separate parallel lines. So it's really not going to be very helpful to try and explode this file to shortcut your way into converting it to Revit. The better way to convert it to Revit is to use the techniques that we talked about in the Convert movie. If you find yourself in a situation, though, where you really just need to explode a CAD file, then here's the recommended workflow. First, go into Revit and create a brand new empty project. Import the CAD file there, explode it there, and clean it up. What do I mean by clean it up? I can select these lines, one or several of these lines, and I can change the line styles to a corresponding Revit type. You want to do that to all the pieces of text. You want to do that to all the line styles. Clean it up. Then you select the resulting geometry and copy it to your clipboard and paste it back into your live project. If you do it that way, you're going to leave behind all of the stuff that we didn't want and only bring over the stuff that you did want. And so that's considered a much better way to perform that process in the cases where it's necessary.